So we've seen a lot of the different classes in the Bazaar so far, and a lot of their items. But one little friend we haven't really seen much about is Dooley, and we have finally seen a plethora of Dooley's items. So today I'm going to go through my top Dooley items, the ones I think to look out for, and the ones I think are just really neat. So without further ado, let's jump into number 5. Number 5 on my list is Dooley's bed. Every 8 seconds, this medium appliance will add strength equal to your regeneration. And it's passive. At the start of the day, you gain 1 regeneration permanently. So this is on this list for a couple of reasons. First of all, adding regen permanently at the start of the day is a really interesting mechanic. Hopefully you can get this earlier on in the day, and it'll be one of those sort of entire builds that you can run. If you get a Dooley's bed early on, add it into your build, you can then run a regen build for the entire thing. Those sorts of things are really interesting to see. We've spotted a couple of them here and there before, but this is one of Dooley's, and I love to see it. The other thing is the gaining an attribute based on another attribute. This is the first time we've seen this, at least in this specific way, and it's only temporary. It's for the fight, right? But it opens up so many doors. We can gain regeneration based on strength now. We can gain speed based on strength and regeneration. We can gain strength based on burn. It opens up so many doors. I can't wait to see what the Bazaar team do with the rest of this, and that is why this is made my list. It's actually really bad of me to have put it this low, but as you'll see, the rest of the items are actually pretty exceptional. So without further ado, let's also go into number 4. My number 4 pick, therefore, is Komi, An, and Do, or as I think it's supposed to be pronounced, Commando. Very funny. Anyway, Komi, An, and Do, every 11 seconds, this medium weapon friend, 2 types, will deal 22 damage. Equally, its passive is that adjacent friends charge 10% faster. So, first things first, this is a friend weapon. That's why this kind of made it up, like just beat out Dooley's bed. I think friend weapon is going to be an interesting combination. There are a couple of these. We'll see another one later. But it's really interesting. Like, it sort of builds on that narrative of Dooley sort of leading this rebellion of the sentient robots who are rising up against their oppressors and who are looking for freedom and to live a good life. And Komi, An, and Do all kind of look a little bit like Dooley. They look like Dooley's little friends, and they chunk as well. 22 damage is nothing to laugh at. The actual reason why it's on the list, though, is that friends charge 10% faster thing. They're kind of on this list as there is a friend archetype sort of thing. I love the friend archetype. It's really cool, really smart. They've done with it what they did with Joy. They could have just called this Robot, right? Or they could have called it, I don't know, Dooley's Army. They could have had any archetype, but they picked friend, which is important because friend can be used elsewhere. They've started to really think about the naming of their archetypes. This is something that came up ages ago when they were talking about the design space of a game. However, you don't necessarily just want a bajillion archetypes and a bajillion different, like, poison, as well as toxin, as well as burn, as well as, I don't know, freeze burn. You know, you don't want a bajillion different effects as well. You want as much space out of as few options as possible. And for that, you want to basically keep it in a nice little grid, nice little square. You don't want 5 classes, 20 archetypes, and 3 abilities. You want 5 classes, 5 archetypes, 5 abilities, 5 effects, 5 of this, 5 of that. You want to have a nice little block. So there's fewer things for people to remember. They explain it far better. We actually probably have a video on it, so go and check out the channel. Links should be below. If not, hit the subscribe button and you'll always get our updates. Anyway, back to the actual point here. They've picked friends as the archetype here because it can be used for other things. We could have an animal tamer and all of their animal companions would be friends. We could have a sort of socialite class, like the musician they were talking about before. This musician could do Joy as well as have friends. So there are lots and lots of options they're keeping open, and I'm really happy to see them doing it in a very, very smart way. And that's why Komi, An, and Do is number 4 on the list. Number 3 on the list is, it's probably a little bit too high as well. I feel like this should have been down the list, but it's definitely on the list. Number 3 on the list is another friend, and not the last friend on the list. But number 3 is the Chris Army Knife. Obviously gaining some of its position purely because of the name. I love the Chris Army Knife. I love Micro Dave because they are puns, you know, because Swiss Army. Anyway, Chris Army Knife, every 5 seconds, this small weapon friend, another weapon friend, hey, every 5 seconds will deal damage equal to your core level. So, if you haven't checked out the Bazaar core video thing, go and check that out. Links again should be below. However, it's one of the options they were going for with Dooley, and it looks like they've kind of locked into it now, and I'm very happy for it because the core looked incredible. We'll talk more about it in a minute, but basically the core is another item that is locked onto your board. The core is just an item that Dooley has, and it can level up throughout the game. And there are different items, such as the Chris Army Knife, which call upon your core level. Now, some of the other ones I skipped over and didn't include in this list, partly because their names weren't puns, but mostly because they only slightly called on the level. They did something a little bit extra due to the core's level. Chris Army Knife is all in on that level. He's got a low cooldown. He's a small item. You can add a bunch of Chris Army Knives, well, if you could get a bunch, but let's say you can only get one. He's not going to take up much space. The core takes up 2 slots already, so Chris Army Knife, nice and small. You could have Commie Ann and Doe speed him up, and he's just going to keep hitting for that quick amount of damage. And we've seen in the past, items with short cooldowns can really, really get crazy once you have an item next to them that sort of triggers when that fires. So we'll be keeping an eye out for that. None of those exist as far as I'm aware yet. Well, there is one. There is one that exists, actually. Maybe this is an honourable mention, but fiber optics, every time something triggers, it speeds up the cooldown of something else. So Chris Army Knife definitely has a space within Dooley's composition already, and we're going to keep an eye on it because I'm sure there'll be more. So, an excellent little addition, and a number 3 on our list. Number 2 on our list is Claw. Just, Claw. Just, that's it. It's just called Claw. Anyway. The Claw, every 9 seconds, this medium attachment weapon, so a new archetype there, every 9 seconds will deal 15 damage. This gets plus 5 damage when your shield breaks. Now, shield break is when your shield goes from having shield to having no shield. And that's a new mechanic. I thought we were running out of mechanics. I thought the Bazaar team... I was shocked when I saw, oh, we can convert regen to strength. That's interesting, but I see how that works, and that didn't, it hasn't super surprised me, but I look forward to what they can do with it. Shield break, I hadn't thought of. It just hadn't occurred to me, and I don't know why, because shield break is perfect. We already have altitude with Stell and landing and taking off, so why not have shield break? Why not have the opposite? Why not have when you gain shield, when you didn't have some before? When it's, I guess, shield on, shield up, I don't know. But shield break is what we have for now. And I'm excited to see it, to be honest. I think it's going to be really good with Dooley, because Dooley has a lot of access to shielding. So we've seen a little bit of it. Not enough to sort of go, oh, this is going to be brokenly good, because you can turn shields on and off really, really quickly. But it'll be really fun to play with. First of all, if you're building this, you have to be careful about who you're playing against. More on that in a moment, by the way. But yeah, if you're running into Jules and she's feeding you up, your shield is never going to get broken, so avoid that. But if you're against someone that is going to be damaging you, and you can get that build where your shield just ding, 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 it's going to be so good, and I can't wait to play with little things like that. And that's the entire reason Claw made up here. It's just a new mechanic, and the attachment thing too, but mostly the new mechanic thing. Really excited to see how that works. Now, before we get into number 1, I do have a single honourable mention, and that's going to be the Core. The Core, every 12 seconds, this medium core weapon, funnily enough, will deal 10 damage and advance all items to the right of it by 1 second. Its passive is when any item to the left of it is used, advance the core for 1 second. You cannot sell this item. You start with this item. This is the item that Dooley starts with. It's on his board from the very beginning, and these are the stats that it has. So, A, you can start to see how things like Chris Army Knife and some of his other smaller cooldown weapons can work really cool with this, right? If you have Chris Army Knife to the left of it, then the core will charge up more quickly. If you have Chris Army Knife to the right of it, then the core will make Chris Army Knife even faster and potentially trigger other things. So Dooley has this really interesting sort of left and right field around his core that he has to sort of build up and decide, does he want fast firing items or does he want a fast firing core? And I'm really interested to see where the sort of meta takes us. And I really, really hope that there are viable builds on both sides. And I'm sure there will be, to be honest, with the way that the Bazaar works. Anyway, just an honourable mention because basically the core should easily be the #1 choice. It is by far and large Dooley's best item because you can also level it up and loads of other things. It's so intricate and so integral to Dooley that it had to be #1. So I said, I'm not going to make it #1, I'll just make it an honourable mention. You can't have a Dooley without a core. That being said, there is a #1, and my lord, he is chunky. And that's going to be King Tyrone. I can't not. It's King Tyrone. It's an obvious choice. Look at this guy. It's a freaking mecha dinosaur thing with a little guy underneath him. Every 13 seconds, this large friend weapon does 40 damage, and that is dual cast, and that is piercing, which I believe is piercing through shields. This guy is massive. Okay, sure, my #1 just went to a big guy. Great, it's a dinosaur, yay. Greg saw a dinosaur and made it #1. Not quite. First and foremost, as an archaeologist who constantly gets asked, well, once an archaeologist, constantly gets asked, oh yeah, you dig with the dinosaur? No. I dig people. I dig dead people, specifically. Not dinosaurs. But the dinosaur thing is also cool. No, the reason why it's here is lots of different things. And it's the dinosaur mecha thing, that's way down the list. A, I love having just a big hitting item that does loads and loads of damage on these lists because they're really fun, I'm not going to lie. B, it's dual cast. C, it's piercing. So I thought we'd lost dual cast for a while, and it was one of my favourite abilities because it has that chance to do weird, crazy shit. Like imagine now that we have shiny and fancy. Again, check the channel if you don't know what those are. There's loads of videos describing what they are. They are very integral to the Bazaar now. Imagine you get a fancy King Tyrone who has like, I don't know, maybe he applies burn or something. He's like a fire-breathing King Tyrone. And you get dual cast. You double inflict that fire damage. And it suddenly starts ticking for a massive amount on top of hitting for 40 anyway. Sorry, 80 because dual cast. And it's piercing, so that's going to go straight through the shields. I don't know. King Tyrone, he's just so fucking cool. It does so many things. It's a big hitter. It's dual cast. It's piercing. I've said these things already. King Tyrone is just unanimously the winner. I don't know. If you think you have a different favourite Dooley item, the link to the Bazaar item library that the community on our Discord channel, link to that also below, you'll find the link to that below, and you can go and see all the Dooley items there yourself and decide for yourself that yes, King Tyrone probably is the winner, just like I did. However, you will remember that earlier I said it is important that you make sure you're choosing your right opponent, especially when using certain items. King Tyrone, sure, he'd be pretty good chomping up a Jules or a Vanessa or someone, but against a Pygmalion that's building max health, King Tyrone ain't gonna dent a Pygmalion. Pygmalion is just gonna stick that King Tyrone in a headlock and slam him to the ground, because Pygmalion is an absolute fucking Chad. However, if you want to learn how to best pick your opponents and how to avoid running into the wrong ones, then you need to check out our other video over here where we detail how that's happening, why it involves counterplay and how that's now in the Bazaar apparently, even though they said it wouldn't be, and how you can best use it. So do me a favour and go check that one out.